how did you become an entrepreneur? And like, there's just no way to disaggregate my story of entrepreneurship and addiction. This is just the story of my life. And, one thing led to the other, and they're intertwined. And I just kind of felt like I was not being completely honest.
The water's fine, homie, jump into the deep end. Sow it, you will reap it. We talking how to start it, how to grow it, how to keep it. Take a deep breath. You are now rocking with Founder Secrets.
Patrick, founder of Vidalytics. Welcome to Founder Secrets.
All right, let's fucking go.
Love the energy. So we have a lot of interesting topics today, but we're going to start with an icebreaker. The icebreaker is, if you could have any superpower to enhance your capabilities as a founder, what would it be and why? Flavio, do you want to start? What superpower do you think you'd jump in with?
I would want to be able to not just like read people's thoughts, but read people's emotions. So be able to like accurately gauge exactly how they feel at any given moment. I feel like that would be a huge superpower, because whether it's in a sales pitch with an investor or a customer related call, I feel that then we'll have 100% success rate in the conversation. If I just, like, the only mismatch ever happens when I misread a person's emotions and thoughts. So if we could solve that, it's game over.
That's a good one. I would pick, if I didn't require as much sleep, I noticed that if I don't get 8 hours of sleep, I'm horrible. Like I can't perform. So if I could function well on 4 hours of sleep a night, and I didn't feel tired and had no downside effects, if I could only sleep 4 hours, I think that would really benefit me, not just as a founder, but in life maybe. Patrick, what about you?
Okay, you guys literally stole my two answers. All right, so I'm going to go with the third one, which is the ability to stop time, so I could sleep.
and read people's thoughts.
Yeah, maybe not that though.
Wait, is that what you would do if you were to stop time? What would you use it for?
I do it for everything, man. I mean, like, for commuting, I'm running late. Or like, like we really need to go deep on this topic and like get ahead of the competition. Yeah, it just opens up so many different doors when you're able to stop time. So Excellent. What is it? It's like this Michael Jordan quote. He's like, I never lost a game. I only ran out of time. I mean, you could out execution anybody.
Just given enough unlimited time. All right.
Like, this guy just got like 500 hours of work done in the afternoon. Like, whoops. Hopefully I wouldn't age though if I stop time and then I'm like suddenly older. Anyways.
It'd be strange for everyone else in your life. All right. So in 2021, you wrote a Medium post, and this is the title of the post: How I Went from a Junkie to an 8X Startup Founder. You talk in the post about how you were injecting meth every day at 16 years old. A judge told you that you'd be dead by 21. Your record led to you getting, and I know you had some good jobs, but you had some difficulty kind of getting over the hump to finding maybe the dream jobs that you really wanted. You've had this, now you run a very, very successful software company. And I know there was a big gap between when you were a teenager and these things were going on and today. Yeah. But this Medium post, was very vulnerable. Like you speak very candidly about the experience you had at that age. I'm curious what made you write that post, and also how did you keep positive, and what did you kind of learn from being a junkie into now being an entrepreneur? Yeah.
So why did I write the post? It's in the article, but I wrote it or published it on the anniversary of my best friend's death, Austin Daniel Higgins. He died at the age of 17. The last place I saw him was at another friend's funeral. I mean, honestly, at his funeral, somebody that knew us was like, I can't believe he's dead. And I wasn't. It's just this saying that I've always carried his memory. And I remember at his funeral, his father said, if his death, helps change one person's life, then he didn't die in vain. I've been on other podcasts, and, I've been an entrepreneur for like 15 years. And, I get asked, this stuff, and it's like, well, how did you become an entrepreneur? And like, there's just no way to disaggregate my story of entrepreneurship and addiction. This is just the story of my life. And, one thing led to the other, and they're intertwined. And I just kind of felt like I was not being completely honest, and I was kind of hiding, and I was doing him a disservice. And, it was just, it was time, it was time to go public. And, if somebody, and I was nervous, and I talked to a lot of people. I talked to my EO group. I talked to, people I work with, mentors. I was worried about blowback from that. I basically got none, but it's basically like, if somebody has a problem with this, fuck them. You know, it's like if I go to raise money someday and they like find this thing and are like, oh no, this guy's, you know, got a checkered past. It's like, well, they're going to find that out in due diligence anyways. I don't know. I mean, one of my core values, and this transcends into my business, is transparency as well. That's why. And what was the other question? How did I stay positive?
How do you apply the lessons from being, you know, I'm using the word junkie because you used it. How do you disparaging, but how do you use, what did you learn then that you use now?
I mean, I've learned a lot of things. I mean, I haven't really like ever described it this way, but I mean, I really became an entrepreneur at 13 when I started selling drugs. A family member gave me a vial of LSD and I went and sold it to my friends. And, you know, after that, I think by 15, I was selling like a pound of pot a week. And then I started selling speed and then everything fell apart and I wound up in rehab. I mean, I was selling like $1,000 of speed a week at 16. I was like an enterprising young guy, you know, like somebody gave me a graphing calculator in exchange for some drugs. And I was like figuring out like numbers such as COGS, you know, and like gross margin and like, you know, like average selling price and stuff like that. And, you know, these are things that like later, many years later, like when I was in like a college finance course, I was like, oh, so that's what it's called. I was like, okay, like, yeah. So, you know, I learned that. I definitely got my like risk tolerance, like just completely reset. And I think even to this day, like the way that I approach situations and problems and like kind of just view life is radically different. And I think most entrepreneurs carry this type of attitude and perspective. Like you have to be this contrarian to be an entrepreneur, to go out and start a business, to go against the grain, to not have a job, you know, to take that risk. And I mean, especially in the early days, I don't know about your guys' story or anybody listening, but, you know, I spent a lot of years like below the poverty line in credit card debt, not knowing what I was doing, being a total rookie entrepreneur. And, you know, people being like, what are you doing? Like, when are you going to get a real job? The lessons, though, are endless. And but I think one of the biggest ones is just like, I'm going to die. And I'm very intimate with death because I've lost dozens of friends. Elliot, the friend who died that, you know, the last place where I saw Austin. I mean, those were just the first two. I've lost count at this point. I had a friend die 6 months ago that I knew from recovery. He actually sold me my house that I'm in right now. So yeah, it's just, you know, someday I'm going to exit this earth. Do I want to sit on the sidelines? Fuck no. You know, what do you want your life to be about?
It feels like that is it true that was also a driving force behind you traveling the world and spending a lot of time outside the US, or were they not related?
You know, I mean, like, I just also have like this like need for excitement and like this like adventurous drive and stuff. I think it's a very common thing for somebody to want to travel. But at the time I was like, I had this lifelong dream of running away. That I never really did. And I tried to do it and never really achieved it. But yeah, like I just wanted my life to be exciting, you know? And like when I discovered drugs, right? When I started drinking and smoking weed and things like that at the age of 10, I was like, I found it. I found this thing that I'm missing, right? Because I thought life was supposed to be like a movie. I thought it was supposed to be exciting, and it wasn't exciting, you know. And it was dull, and it was slow, and it was mundane, you know. And obviously there was other things kind of going on, maybe some things that I was lacking, you know, like from like an emotional kind of standpoint. I know what the default path in life can get me. It's very easy to see it all around us, you know. 2.5 kids, you know, the white picket fence, you know, fulfilling those dreams that we, you know, think we should do because like there's somebody else's idea. You know, it's like, oh, that's what you do, right? Like the kind of, you know, herd mentality. But what I don't know is how far I can go. There's a quote that was actually on the wall of my basement when I was growing up. My dad had this poster, and it said, only one who risks going too far can possibly find out how far one can go. Something like that. And it always stuck with me. And it's like, yeah, I don't know what it's like to buy one-way ticket to Asia. You know, I mean, now I do, but at 27, I didn't. So I did that, you know, and then I did that repeatedly in, you know, to 40 countries or so.
And you found a co-founder of one of your businesses, right?
Yeah. One of them. Yeah. That was a pretty shitty business. I don't know if we even got $1 of revenue, but we worked on it for like 6 months. So yeah.
It's interesting in some ways. I don't know if it's fair to draw a parallel between the energy you have for entrepreneurship and the energy that maybe went into some negative things. It almost seems like it's that same sort of, I mean, a lot of entrepreneurs addicted to the entrepreneurship too. I'm wondering, how do you view that, or do you find that energy and you channel it in more positive ways, or how do you think about that?
I'm not sure if I have a great answer for that because I have a lot of energy. I'm very excitable. I think the thing that the similar thing that kind of drove me into both of those is more just this kind of drive for something different, and in some ways it can be very unhealthy and like maladaptive, where I'm seeking something external to kind of put into my life, into myself, to change it, and like thinking like, all I need is, if I just had this lifestyle where I was stoned all the time, then like things would be great. I'd get off work and smoke a joint and I'd relax, and it's like, the clouds would part and the sun would shine down on me or something. I don't know if that even makes sense. Also, when I started my first business, I was 24. I'd just been fired for the second time in like 7 months or so. It was 2009. So the height of the financial crisis. I just was sick of getting fired. I mean, and it was funny. So I was a headhunter. I was a top producer at both firms that I worked at. It wasn't like a production problem. I mean, maybe at the first one, but that's a longer story. But it was more about the interpersonal relationship that I had with my boss, with the owner of the company. In both places, especially the second one. So it was kind of interesting. Like my sister says, as a kid, I had a problem with authority and I got into a bunch of trouble. As an adult, I had a problem with authority and I became an entrepreneur. And there's some truth to that, and also like when I got clean, she was like, you need to start jumping out of airplanes, because you need this thing to excite you, and I do think that, I need something to drive towards. And I think this is a pretty common, human trait. I love this quote that's like, everybody needs something to do, someone to love, and something to hope for. Yeah. I mean, if you're just doing the same thing day in and day out, and you know exactly where you're going to be in, 20, 30, 40 years, where's the fun in that?
So walk us through this kind of entrepreneurial journey. You mentioned you started the first one at 24. Like what's kind of the journey to Vidalytics?
Oh yeah, it's a winding, treacherous road. Luckily no bankruptcies or anything crazy. Well, maybe some things that are crazy. But anyways, so 24, 2009, I got fired for the second time. Like I just said, I'd been a headhunter, and at least the companies I worked at, being a headhunter, I basically did 90% of the work, right? I did my own research. I found clients. I found candidates. The thing they really only provided me was like a desk and a computer and a database. So maybe I could do a deal with somebody else in the office. But, I think I maybe did like one or two of those in my whole career, working at other companies, which was about 3 years or so, if I'm not mistaken, off the top of my head. So it was like very minimal, right? And then there's practically no barriers to entry into recruiting, and then I had money saved up, because I did. And I lived so frugally. I think my living expenses were something like $1,700 a month. I mean, my rent was like $500. It was a shithole because I couldn't get a nicer apartment because of my record. So like literally, It was a pretty gross place. There was like spiders and it was dirty and it was right on like this busy road in Denver. But, I started a recruiting firm, out of that. And I'm really, really lucky. In some ways I'm lucky. In some ways, I kind of happenstance, a strategic move here. But I had a lot of other sales jobs before that. And like I heard about recruiting and it seemed to kind of fit the profile of what I was looking for. Something that was more of a consultative sales. So it wasn't like this hardcore boiler room, like grinding kind of situation. I could do it over the telephone because I didn't have a driver's license. There was a lot of smaller companies. So I could kind of like sell myself to the owner and like get hired. But, some bigger corporation, I had job offers yanked. After I like smoked the interviewing process and got to the end. And then I was like, hey, this seems like a pretty simple business that if like I'm good at it and I like it, I might be able to start one of these. That was my thought process like 3 years earlier when I got into it. But during that time, I was like, I don't know if I want to start a business, blah, blah, blah. I wanted to be a day trader, which was like some other kind of, misadventure. But, like those things actually really worked out. So I started a recruiting firm and I grinded for like 90 days. And was terrified. I qualified for unemployment and I had savings. I think I had like 18 months of runway or something crazy, which is just like such a low risk situation. I mean, it is such a silver platter of entrepreneurship to kind of go out here. So I call it like entrepreneurship with training wheels. But anyways, so at 90 days, I closed my first deal. I think it was like $22,000. And like, so if I'd done that deal at a recruiting firm, I probably would have kept 35 to 40% of it. And, instead I got 100% of it. And, my expenses were minuscule. I had like a telephone and internet and a computer. I would fight to get 5% right off.
That's a year of runway over there.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah. So then my runway was years, into the future. But anyways, a very interesting thing happened. I was once I got money in the bank, I kind of lost my drive for recruiting. And it's an interesting thing because previously I was working in recruiting firms. And I think that, I kind of had some trauma and some insecurity, some low self-esteem. So I really wanted to win. When I was working in these firms and I was competitive and I wanted to be the best and stuff like that. And then when it was just me and my apartment and my bills were paid, I was kind of this is boring. I'm just having the same conversation with people on the phone all day long. It's funny, when I started recruiting, I was terrified to cold call, and I'd had other cold calling jobs before that. My hand was shaking on my first dial. And then at the end, I was just bored out of my mind. I read The 4-Hour Workweek about a year after I started my recruiting firm and changed my life. Within 3 weeks, I had started another business. And actually, during those 3 weeks, I asked everybody in my life to start a company with me. And they all said no. Everybody said no. I was like, hey, you should read this book or listen to the audio. I asked my sister, I was like, you should listen to this audio. She's like, well, are you going to burn the CD? This, 15 years ago. Are you going to burn the CD for me? I'm like, I guess. And then I gave it to her. And then and I don't know, she had some other complaint. I'm like, I don't think this is going to work. Yeah. But there was one woman, Darcy, who I met at a recruiting firm I worked at. She was the secretary, and she had just graduated college. She was a middle-aged woman. She was kind of going to go into industry, that what she had studied, but she kind of decided to come and do a data entry project for me, setting up a CRM at my recruiting firm. So she was in my apartment working. Okay. And
And the one with the spiders?
I had moved to another apartment by that time.
A better apartment.
A better apartment. Yeah. I think that one was $650 a month, and it had 2 bedrooms.
Wow.
Yeah. So it was much better. But yeah, so she was in that apartment. I was like, you got to read this book. And she read it. I was like, hey, I got a few dollars. I'll fund this project. You can run it. What do you say? And she was like, okay. So we started Zen Life Supplements together. That I kind of view as, I don't know what you would call it, maybe my undergrad or my grad school of entrepreneurship. And I ran that business for practically a decade or so, and it, overlapped with a lot of other things. But I thought my sales and marketing experience, my sales experience would transfer over to internet marketing. It didn't. It took me a long time to kind of figure out how to make it work. The first thing that I did that really worked was I created a video, what's called a video sales letter. And I put it on a landing page and I bought ads and I drove it to it and it converted. And that first video that I made, which I was actually in Bangkok by this time, because I realized, hey, what am I doing in Denver? I should leave. Since this is my dream to travel, nothing's really stopping me. It doesn't need to be someday, maybe. But anyways, I made that video and it went on to sell $1 million. And I mean, in the first early days, it was $1,000 a month or something like that. But, it just kept going and it, had a lot of legs.
And what is a video sales letter?
Yeah. I mean, you can think of it as a low production value infomercial on the internet.
But it's in an email. You get an email and it's a video.
Not necessarily. So, it's a long form direct response video. It's a more technical definition. It's just a video that sells something. Okay. So, and they're typically longer, 20, 30, even 60 minutes long. And, they are really, and it'll be the sole selling asset typically, on a landing page. And it can be entirely responsible for turning a cold click into a customer on the very first day, and to the tune of hundreds of millions of dollars. I mean, this is what Vidalytics specializes in today. We estimate that the videos hosted on Vidalytics have generated $2 billion in sales. Yeah. I mean, we work with, hundreds of companies, tens of thousands, but hundreds that are doing 8 figures, 9 figures, stuff like that.
All through a cold video from they clicked a Google ad because they Googled something. They click an ad, maybe they go to a video that's 25 minutes long. They watch the video and then they buy something. That's kind of the high level.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of nuance to that. It can look a lot of different ways. But, sometimes there's a quiz, sometimes there's an opt-in, sometimes it's a video on the page and it's a hybrid and there's like a landing page below it. Sometimes there's retargeting traffic. Maybe they have their house list and they're emailing their own list of buyers for something else. And they have a new offer, new product, service, whatever, and they're emailing it. But yeah, it's not uncommon though. And probably I would say probably the most common that they're driving straight to a landing page with nothing but a video. And when I say nothing, I mean nothing. I mean like a headline, there's no navigation.
Like you buy in the video, like how YouTube now has like those little like click here to buy things now. You're saying like you buy in the video, or you're saying after the video is like click here to go buy stuff and then they buy stuff?
Yeah. So there'd be a CTA drop, call to action drop. So that would actually be hidden away. So like, they need to, hook the person, grab their attention, hook them, and kind of have this like emotional indoctrination, right? So that they can actually do the differentiation and create that desire for, the product or service that they're selling. And then like, when the time is right. So it's like when to ask for the sale.
How long I always wonder, like, how long is like the ideal video? Like you've seen, if you have the data, like what's the ideal length for conversion?
What's really interesting? All right. So this is like a sneak preview of what we're calling state of VSLs. And this is like a huge data science project that we're doing internally, analyzing the 20,000 videos that we have at Vidalytics. And this is one of the things we're looking at, right? Because it's a question I get, how long should my video be, right? And it's like, well, long enough to get the sale, right? And not longer. But what we found is that the highest converting time is 60 minutes. Okay. And then the second, and it's not like this, like kind of like linear thing where it just like, grows and grows to 60 and then like drops or something. The second highest time is 20 minutes. So now this is like, these aren't split tests, right? This is like a different type of kind of analysis of just the videos on our platform and the data that we have available. But, you could infer what you can from that.
Wait, 60 minutes? Like 60, like an hour?
An hour. Yes. 1 hour. Yeah, absolutely. And here's the thing.
Who goes on a YouTube, on Google, searches for something and then gets to a page and watches a video for an hour?
I think it's more about the video than it is the person. I think any person would do that. And it's just like, like if you saw one of these videos and it's say selling like, like a menopause kind of product, none of us are going to watch it. We're like younger-ish guys, we don't need that. It's not speaking to us as individuals. But if it was something like, about like scaling a business, about entrepreneurship, for me, if it was about like, some kind of biohacking thing, yeah, like absolutely. I'm going to be like, wait, what is this about? So it's about that message market match. Right. And speaking directly to somebody's, hopes, dreams, desires, their pain, the stuff that keeps them up at night, the stuff that they like are too scared to tell their therapist.
Is this something somebody can learn? Do you think that these people are just naturally gifted at holding someone's attention for 60 minutes? That's so long. I'm so impressed that people can do that. Do you think they're naturally gifted or that they've learned like things over time? Can someone learn how to do this?
It is 100% without a doubt a skill. Just like anything, right? This is something we talk about a lot at my company about like recruiting, like skills versus traits, like something innate. And almost everything is a skill. There's things like attention to detail and like a growth mindset and like accountability and like energy levels that are really hard to change. And at least but I think if somebody wants to change those for themselves, they can. But I don't think me as an employer, I'm just going to find somebody that, doesn't have those things. And suddenly like, I'm going to give them the rah-rah speech of their life. Copywriting and writing this up. Absolutely. I know some guys, like one in particular, a really good friend of mine, yet another person that I met at a meetup. He wrote his very first video sales letter for me, and he wrote it for free on spec with the promise of a royalty. And it worked and it did well. And yeah, like now he's doing 50 million a year or so in his own business. With healthy margins.
From video sales letters.
Yes. 100%. Yeah. And then there's like plumbers doing this stuff, and there's like,
what do the plumbers do? They're selling plumbing with video sales letters? What? Really?
Yeah. I mean, it's not going to be an hour, to come fix my drain, and that's good. Here's a good thing that like a service provider can say, right? And it's just like, hey, like if you're looking for like, say like a video editor, right? This is something where we deal with. If you're looking for a video editor, you may be thinking like, what is the lowest common price, or what does your portfolio look like? But there's a hidden dimension to the art of video that it's easy to overlook if you're not like attuned to this. And this is the ability to make a video that actually converts into sales. And the most expensive video editor is one that doesn't create a video that converts, that creates any revenue. So you, Mr. or Mrs. Business owner, this is the thing that you need to figure out, or something like that. I kind of screwed it up there at the end, but
no, that's a great pitch. So that's what you're saying. The person, maybe if they're a plumber, they speak to what someone's worried about in hiring a plumber. Yeah. Is that the idea?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, it's like, hey, okay. So like, I think a lot of plumbing searches are probably under duress. So maybe that's kind of like a bad example. But it could just be like, hey, is water flooding into your living room right now? If so, you need to pick up the phone and call me because we are available 24/7. We, have certified professionals. Everybody has a background check and we are going to be able to come out there, and like fix this thing immediately. Or it's like, hey, a lot of plumbers do shitty work and they just kind of like, do the equivalent of Drano, but like, with skinny pipes. I don't know anything about plumbing. So this is kind of a bad example, but it's all about like, differentiation, what can I say? What can I do? What's this person's concern? Right. And when they're asking about price, and this is why the call to action is hidden, right? Because that's the wrong question. That means that they don't know what to ask, right? If they're asking about price, they don't know what to ask. They don't know how to judge these people. They don't know the difference between like what makes a great plumber and a really shitty fucking plumber that's going to fuck up your pipes and have them burst next winter. So, I mean, that's the most expensive plumber is the guy that creates some shoddy work that, needs to be ripped out.
What do you mean by the call action is hidden? And there has to be a call to action eventually. So what do you mean by it's hidden?
Well, it's just like, if you are going on a date, right? Or say you see somebody out there in the world and you're attracted to them and you go up and you're like, hey, would you marry me? Hey, would you go to bed with me? And the answer is probably going to be fuck no, right? And if it is a yes, you don't want that yes, right? That's going to be what you call a shitty fucking client. But, it's all about timing, right? And it's like, you don't want to talk past the close, but you also don't want to do it too soon, And if you're cold calling, you're not going to be like, hey, you want to spend some money on like local business marketing or something? And somebody's going to be like, no. But if you're like, hey, I was looking at your Google listing and I noticed that you're on page 37, but like last week we got this result for somebody else in a similar niche in Cincinnati, and we got them to page 1. And this is equivalent to, $10,000 for them. And the best thing is that we don't even charge for this, but I need to make sure that this is a fit for your business. So can I ask a few questions?
It's a great hook.
Well, yeah, is what, okay. So it costs nothing. It's worth 10K. They have a track record, and these are all things that make sense. But anyway, so going back to the call to action question, just in a video sales letter, typically the call to action, and not always, because there's no hard and fast rules, right? It's all based on the market and the data in the moment. Typically the call to action can be hidden until later in the video. It's just like, once everything is kind of laid out. So for the plumber, maybe it's like call now, right? And you don't need to hide that call to action.
Well, you're saying that because I think it's a really, really good lesson here. If somebody if somebody says yes too early, that's an indicator that they're not serious or they're a bad customer.
Yeah, I mean, they're probably codependent. They probably don't have boundaries. Yeah, my specialty. Anyways. But no, yeah, if they say yes too soon, I don't know if it translates over, like, from the dating world, absolutely, to the business world. I kind of have to think about that a bit more. I think that the real lesson there is that if you're asking too soon, if you're just like, hey, here's the price, mm-hmm. They're just going to make an up or down decision on like, what they kind of had in mind, for price. And then you're competing on price and you're a commodity. So I think that the difference there is to date them a while and to, kind of build your value, get them, let them catch feelings, so to speak.
All right, let's shift gears a bit. So, you're bootstrapped. Like you started Vidalytics. Well, I think you had a co-founder initially, but you bootstrapped mm-hmm. the company, didn't raise outside capital, and you're in a space, video, where there's a lot of venture capital. What made you want to stay bootstrapped, and how do you view going against competitors that are larger and have more capital behind them?
I was kind of like open-minded to the idea of possibly raising money, but ultimately, a few things deterred me from it, and I'm really glad that I made that decision. But one of them was just like I didn't feel comfortable taking somebody's money. This is the first tech company that I had started, and I had started a lot of other things before Vidalytics. But I think at most I had like a team of like 3 or 4 or something like that. I'd have to kind of figure it out. And that would be like a real kind of like flimsy team, like a customer support person, just like a kind of catch-all operations type person, like a technical person. And then I was doing all of the marketing, and product development and stuff like that. And then maybe I had some contractors, like obviously. But yeah, like today I have 25 full-time team members and then probably, I don't know, at least a dozen, kind of part-time contractor types or agencies and stuff that work with us. So yeah, today I'd be a lot more comfortable taking money because like I know what to do, and I'm like, okay, this is how you build a product. This is how you build a team. These are the phases of a business, of, building the MVP, getting product market fits, building the initial teams, like, financial controls and stuff like that.
And just to push back, I guess, would you say you compete against, not YouTube because YouTube is just about YouTube, right? Sending you more videos from YouTube, but perhaps like a Vimeo or Wistia. I remember I used to use Wistia in my, but would that be like?
Those are the 2 prime targets. Yes. And there's others. There's plenty of others, and including YouTube. Yeah, we compete against them in a way. Yeah. To the extent that anytime somebody has a video, or like not even necessarily a marketing video, but that is our sweet spot, obviously. But anytime somebody has a marketing video on a webpage, like we're competitive in that conversation.
And so it seems to me that investor money would help, right?
Why?
Vimeo's public, although I think their
stock has dropped like 95%.
Wistia raised some tens of millions of dollars, and I think
they did not. Yeah. I believe Wistia raised like 1.7, if I'm not mistaken. And they actually did this thing several years back that got them a lot of publicity, that they raised a bunch of debt to pay off their investors.
Huh.
So I don't know where they're at with that journey, but they're wholly owned. So I think by the 2 founders, from the sound of it, what they've put out there, and then they do profit sharing with all their team. So, but here's the thing, man. At the end of the day, like, should I raise money? Well, is money going to solve the problem that I have? And like I
what's the problem that you have?
Not enough time in the day, man. That's why I want to stop time.
Stop time.
Stop time.
Well, money for some people buys them time, right? So I guess in a way, with money,
I don't think it does.
You can hire more people to extend.
We're profitable. I can hire more people. We hire people every month, And could I hire more people? Sure. But like, here's the thing. If I raise money, then I'm going to have a boss. I'm going to have investors and another hand on the steering wheel. So, and first of all, that's actually after I raise money. First, I got to, go out and raise the money, which is going to take 6 months, right? So I could just kind of, instead of trying to raise money, I could just try to create some marketing and some revenue generating activities that, kind of solve the immediate problem if revenue is the problem, which it often is the problem. Okay. So what sales cures all. But like, here's the thing. Let's say that I don't have revenue. So then I'm like, okay, I'm going to like raise money. Well, then I have 2 problems, right? Then I still need revenue. And then I have an investor that wants their money back, right? And wants to make sure that I'm not going to fuck it up. So it just kind of compounds it. And then also, like, when you raise money, at least from a venture capital, right? I don't know what's worse. I have raised money once in my life from like gunslingers, right? Like kind of angels that were, yeah, I mean, it was wild. And I actually did after I started Vidalytics to keep the lights on at Vidalytics because everything fell apart, right? My supplement company, Zen Life, crashed a few months in. Vidalytics took 3 times as long as we thought it would to build. It didn't get any traction in the marketplace. I went into 6 figures of personal debt. So yeah, I raised money to start another business. I was totally transparent about the whole situation. The investors wanted to invest in Vidalytics. I said no. And they're like, well, hey, we have this other idea and we want you to run it. And I'm like, okay, cool. Like, let's do it. And, anyways, but yeah, it's just like, so, but all right, anyways, if you raise money from a venture capitalist, right, they don't want a base hit, right? They want a grand slam, right? They want a unicorn, and they want it in no more than 7 to 10 years at the very, very most, right? Because of the vintage on the fund that they have. So I have this time pressure to perform, and it totally changes every single decision that I need to make as far as who I'm hiring, what strategies I'm deploying, what I'm doing with the product and stuff like that. Right now, I'm almost 8 years into Vidalytics, and we're mid 7 figures in revenue. And to a venture capitalist, they would have put me out of my misery years ago. But meanwhile, I'm bootstrapped and I have a successful business. A base hit for me, Patrick Stiles, is phenomenal. It's a life-changing event, and it's so much easier to do, right? Even bootstrapped, right? Go out and get a loan, get a second job, just do whatever to make it happen. Like, I think bootstrap is the way to go if you can make it work. Now, there are times, right, where you need heavy, like capital expenses, right? Like bringing a hardware product into the world seems difficult, right? That seems like something expensive to do, right? Bringing a drug to market, something like that, like manufacturing electric cars, that requires some capital that you can't put on a credit card.
I'm so glad that you're so passionate about this because there's so much out in the world about how raising money is the big thing. And that's what people are so focused on. But I completely agree with you. If you create a business to where it's life-changing money to you as the owner, and you could keep, you get to run it your way. It's like the best of all worlds. Now, of course, getting there is hard. I'm so glad that you're so passionate about this because it's kind of a rare voice in the tech startup world.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing. First of all that propaganda out there is put out there by big money, by like big venture capital or whatever you want to call them. But I think it's this real kind of like insular, like kind of echo chambery, like mentality of like raise money, and do SEO. And like, it's like no different than like, go to college and get a job. It's just like the default path, and like, first of all, most people shouldn't start a company, right? And then of the ones that should, most of them probably shouldn't, or the business they're starting isn't venture fundable, right? And this is the other thing that all right, most venture capitalists suck. All right. Most venture capitalists, 80% of them, I read this in an article. I could possibly find it for you again. 80% of them don't don't provide a return to justify their risk and their lockup period. So these venture capitalists that we put on a pedestal, they're really running around there with FOMO and trying to like create deal flow of how are they going to find the next Uber, and they're just trying to get into these deals. Like now, of course, Andreessen Horowitz and, Sequoia or, the brand name venture capitalists, it's a different animal, right? Mm-hmm. It's a different animal. It's like Goldman Sachs and, Warren Buffett. The deals come to them. Everybody else is just, fighting for the scraps at the bottom of the pile. So they have this immense FOMO, right? So then like, can my business get to $1 billion? And most of them cannot, right? So it's like, should I even raise money? And then if you raise money, then you have this conflict of interest and they're diversified and I'm not. They can fire me from my own fucking company and take all my equity. Okay. Which come on. My last 2 jobs I had, I got fired. It's a high probability that I'm going to do. Yeah. I mean, not anything crazy, but come on, they're going to be like, oh, well, you need to, do my strategy or something. It's like, fuck you, you go do your fucking strategy. Start your own goddamn business.
I love it. I'm going to ask one other question around, you're in an industry that's changing a lot. Not just the video sales letter side, but,
Sure.
Since you've owned the business, the rise of mobile and these other kind of trends, everybody's obsessed with AI right now. How do you view trends? AI. Have you heard of it? How do you kind of look at those things, on a forward basis? Like, how do you think about where should we invest from a product perspective? You have hundreds or thousands of clients. You have a product that's out in the world. It's used every single day by millions of people. So how do you think about what you should be building as a business, for the next 6 or 12 months? And yeah,
I'm gonna kind of backtrack because it plays off of this question we're just talking about, right? With the venture capitalists and all this stuff, right? I saw a gap in the marketplace. I was using all the other video tools and none of them were built for this direct response marketing, right? So I was like, hey, I think we can do this. Like, I think this is a need. I want this tool. So that's how we started the company. And our North Star has always been conversions. And this is how we make decisions, even when it's not in our quote unquote best interest. But I think it always is in our best interest. So an example of that is that we've done things to optimize our bandwidth, which is the main kind of metric that we bill for. And we've done things to optimize it that actually bring it down, that hurt our revenue, but because it's going to make the video better, right? It's going to be higher quality with a lower footprint so that it's faster, and faster videos convert better. So and if we convert better, then we're going to win more deals and we're going to grow. So that's like the North Star there. So looking ahead to the next 6, 12, months and beyond, I think that the industry is going to interactive videos. And this is something that I'm really bullish on. We already have an interactive feature, Smart Vids at Vidalytics. And this is like a choose your own adventure thing, right? I'm going to insert a commercial. It's like a choose your own adventure thing where like you're watching the video and then all of a sudden, like you get hit with a question, right? And the video doesn't need to stop, but it can. And it has a bunch of different options of how this can behave. But at the end of the day, you answer it. And then a specific video plays after that, right? To the end viewer, it's as if it's a one continuous stream of like just interacting with this video, just like a sales conversation, right? And it's like if you went to the car dealership to buy a car and somebody is just like talking, and they're not asking any questions, you'd get the fuck out of there, right? They're going to try to sell you a minivan or something stupid, right? When you want, the sports car. And, like creating a video that converts, especially as like a soul selling, kind of element, that's really hard because you got to like say the right things to the right person in the right order. And then if you're not using Vidalytics, it's a black box because you don't have the right analytics. We have a sweet like analytics feature, but even that, like there's so much stuff that's like, it's linear, right? And you can't interact with them. But if you're sitting across the table from somebody and having a conversation where you can ask questions, that's powerful. So that's what we're super bullish on. And I believe wholeheartedly in this. And I've, got in my team, to kind of, double down on this feature. And we're super excited about what we're building.
And how do you make those determinations? Is it talking to customers? Is it what's in your head? How do you figure that out?
We do anything and everything we can, right? Everything from looking at competitors. Sometimes we've ran ads to kind of test a feature, like an idea, to kind of see the response to it. We obviously talk to customers, and, one thing that's useful is that I am kind of our ICP, and I am tight with a lot of our kind of big users and stuff like that. But it's also this thing of just like, is this going to drive conversions? And that's a pretty simple question. It's a pretty simple kind of North Star and thing to try to optimize for.
I think a lot of what you're saying is really powerful, especially to people early in their journey, because they're very susceptible to seeing, this propaganda that you're talking about out in the world, not just about financing or raising money, but about some of these other topics that you're also hitting on. I mean, what I heard you say is that you built a product that you wanted. Like you saw the gap in the market because you were kind of the customer and you used these other tools, and you said, I could build a better one. And I think there's something really powerful about that because you continue to know who the customer is, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool. All right. Well, we'll kind of end with life hack, and then you get a promo spot at the end. So
another one.
Another one. So in terms of life hacks, we'll all answer this. Flavio, you have a good life hack?
Well, I was in Austin, Texas, which by the way should have some barbecue. It's amazing.
That's where Patrick is.
That's where I'm at.
What? Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Well, one of the things we did is had a person do a breathwork exercise, and I just gotta really say breathwork is my life hack. It just is such a powerful substance-free way of accessing kind of like this deep meditative state. And like my arms clenched up, it was like really intense. And It was amazing. So highly recommend it.
All right, I'll go. I have this, we do this thing called secret dinner. So I also highly recommend breathwork. Patrick and I did one 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago. So I have this recurring thing on a calendar. It's called a secret dinner. And secret dinners are with my now wife, but we started it when we were dating. And it's every other week. So it's on Tuesdays, every other Tuesday. And one person surprises the other with where we're going to dinner. And the rules are it can't be anywhere we've been before. And so it has to be a new place and it has to be a surprise to the other person. So it's such a cool thing. We put it on a calendar. It's recurring every 2 weeks. Sometimes we move the days. Like this week, we're moving it to today on Monday. It's been such a great way of just having fun, like fun in the relationship. But it's also a great way to explore, even a neighborhood, we lived in for years and years. There were always new places. And so I have a list on my phone. When I walk across somewhere new, it's called the secret dinner list, and I'll just write it down. And then I go through this list, and it's just a fun, cool way to make sure we don't go back to the same places. And so I highly recommend it. It doesn't have to be with a, spouse or whatnot. You could do it with friends. But secret dinner, and it has a cool name. And then because it's on a cadence, it actually happens. Like it's not something that's, it being a recurring calendar invite is what makes it kind of powerful, I think.
The thing I'm curious about is what app are you saving those ideas in?
Oh, just the Notes app.
Just the Notes.
iOS
okay.
Notes, yeah.
I'm so disappointed. All right.
So disappointed.
I already know that one. Yeah. All right. So my life hack, 75 hard. So I'm doing 75 hard. Today's day 8. I'm working out for at least 90 minutes a day. And I'm going hard.
75
hard.
days?
75 days. Yeah. I've lost 8 pounds. I'm turning 40 in July, and my goal is to get a 6-pack by then. I got a long ways to go.
What is 75 hard? It's 75 days of working out hard. Is that what it is?
Yeah. Sorry. Who's this guy that, Andy Frisella? I'm probably saying his last name wrong. But yeah, it's this thing that, these guys started, and it's just, it's like this, I don't know. It's a concept, right? And, the official version of 75 hard is for 75 days. You work out twice a day. One of them needs to be outside. You drink a gallon of water. You read 10 pages of a nonfiction book, and you pick a diet, stick to a diet. Wow. And if you screw it up, any deviation, you start over. So, and then there's like 75 soft. No alcohol.
Like if you accidentally read fiction, you're like,
Yeah. Yeah. Well, like if you forget to do one of the things, you can read fiction on top of all that other shit. So a gal at my company, she's really into fitness. She's training for a marathon, and she was like, I'm going to do this. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to do it with you. And then we announced it. We got a few other people involved. So we have a Slack channel, and we're just like flexing on each other, like posting our workouts and stuff, like our little, fitness trackers and stuff. I've modified it a little bit where I'm not doing one of my workouts outside. So, so I'm like cycling at the desk, and then I'm going and lifting, and it is awesome. I feel great. And again, 8 pounds 1 week. And I was saying before this started, I've been running calorie deficits of up to 2,300 calories a day.
That's amazing. Wow. That's dedication. I want to see you at the 75-day mark.
I may have an addictive personality.
You don't do anything easy.
No, you don't.
That's for sure.
Yeah, there's fun in that.
Everything on hard mode. All right.
But here's the thing. It gives me a lot of energy. And it's the sort of thing where I was like, I don't know if I should lift after I cycle and blah, blah, blah. And it's just like, and now I'm just like, I'm going to do both. And and I feel really good. And I think it's definitely instilling some habits. I definitely would tone it back after the 75 days where I'm not like, overtraining as much or cutting into sleep. But right now I'm having fun.
How can people find you? How can people learn more about Vidalytics? What would you like to pitch?
Yeah. I mean, you can find me on the internet. Patrick Stiles, Stiles with an I. Vidalytics, is also out there. I would say for anybody that has a marketing video on a website, they should absolutely consider Vidalytics because we cost less than the competition and we out-convert them all day long. And we do that with features that are just not built, by the other video platforms, by Big Video. So check it out.
Big Video. I'm going to start saying that now. Patrick, it's been a pleasure. Thanks so much for coming on Founder Secrets.
Thanks, Patrick.
Absolutely. It was fun. Thanks so much for having me.
Thank you for rocking with the homies. Taylor, Trusty, and Flavio. Seize the day, own it. Until next time, hold it down, hold it down. Hey.